Job is a man who experiences a lot of hardship in the Bible. And this story tells us how we can overcome hardship and how to deal with certain hard things in life, even when we're doing everything right in life. So let's get to the business. So, Job chapter 1. There was once a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. That's a good man right there. That's a good man, Savannah. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, a family man. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, and 500 female donkeys. He also had many servants. He was, in fact, the richest person in that entire area. So, all those sheep and camels and all that is equated to if we had mansions and nice cars and all of that kind of stuff of this era. So he had everything. He was a man of God. He served God. He had everything. So let's keep it going. Job's son would take turns preparing feasts in their homes, and they would also invite their 3 sisters to celebrate with them. When these celebrations ended, sometimes after several days, Job would purify his children. He would get up early in the morning and offer a burnt offering for each of them. Let's just look at that. Look at how he starts his day. Every morning, he gets up early in the morning and offers a burnt offering for each of them. I'm not sure how you start your morning off because most people start with getting on their phone. But if you can, start your day off with the Bible, whether it's reading, praying, but start your day off with that and watch how your life changes. And again, he also says that he would offer a burnt offering for each of them. So again, when we offer things to God, it's going to always pay out. For Job said to himself, perhaps my children have sinned and have cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular practice. He does this. One day, the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser, Satan, came with them. Ops. Where have you come from? The Lord asked Satan. Satan answered the Lord, I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. So you see, Satan just roams around the earth. So we see it. The Lord asked Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. Satan replied to the Lord, yes, but Job has good reason to fear God. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. If you kind of look at the parallel, Job has been serving God, and guess what he got from that? A wall of protection around him and his home and his property. So you see how that kind of correlates where staying away from evil and being with God leads to God's wall of protection around you. I'm going to tell you this. If I want to be protected, that's who I'd want to protect me, the big God. Look how rich he is. It says, you have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. God said, all right, you may test him, the Lord said to Satan. Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but don't harm him physically. So Satan left the Lord's presence. One day, when Job's sons and daughter were feasting at the oldest brother's house. Wait, let's rewind a second. Notice how for Satan to attack Job, he had to ask God, basically, get God's permission. At the end of the day, if you're getting an attack on Satan, just understand this. God understands that it's going on. It's not as if he doesn't have it going without his knowledge. So understand, God is always going to be more powerful than Satan. It's just make sure you remember that. One day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting at the oldest brother's house, a messenger arrived at Job's home with this news. Your oxen were plowing with the donkeys feeding beside them when the Sabins raided us. They stole all the animals and killed all the farmhands. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. While he was speaking, another messenger arrived with this news. The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and all the shepherds. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. Now look at there. These people said that God has fallen from heaven. The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep. So they were blaming God for something that God didn't do. And I think we often do this sometimes where sometimes people will think, oh, bad things are happening to me. God is doing this. And it's like, it's clearly Satan testing you. So again, don't always think that when bad things are happening, it's like God is just, he's not as good and gracious as I thought. He's going to allow some things to happen, but how we deal with it, which we're going to see later in the chapter, is going to determine a lot about who we are and how faithful we can be, even through adversity. While he was still speaking, a third messenger arrived with this news. 3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camel and killed your servants. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news. Your sons and daughters were feasting in their oldest brother's home. Suddenly, a powerful wind swept in from the wilderness and hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed, and all your children are dead. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. Now, look at the extremity that bad things can happen. You feel me? I think sometimes people say, God will never give you something harder than you can handle. This looked like it was too hard for him to handle. So don't ever think that God won't give you more than you can't handle. I mean, Jesus was crucified on the cross. There's going to be hardships in life, but the key is always remembering, how are you going to respond? So let's see how Job responded. Job stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground to worship. Worship. How did he respond to all his adversity? Worship. He said, I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord. In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. And that's Job chapter 1. And the main thing that we're understanding in this chapter that I want you to remember is that no matter how hard life gets and what gets thrown at you, your first job should always be to still thank God and pray to God and always say, hey, I'm faithful. I'm a faithful servant. I'm not going to allow whatever hardship that's in this world to prevent me from making sure that I keep him first and remaining faithful and staying away from evil. A lot of times when people go through hardship, they decide to take matters into their own hand. For example, some people say, life is hard. And instead of talking to God, they say, let me go get some women to kind of relieve that pain temporarily. Let me go smoke some dope. Let me go drink alcohol. Let me go do whatever their vice is to help relieve the pain. And the reality is that pain's still gonna be there once you come off your high. And if you say, well, I'm gonna just keep doing that high to make me forget, well, that's another set of issues that's gonna happen long term. But if you just say, you know what, whatever my issue is, I'm going to submit it to God and just pray, worship, and just submit my problems to him, great things are gonna happen. The issue is people's first response when they're going through hardship isn't to go to God. You have to go to God as soon as hardship happens because he's going to be the only one that can get you through it. And if you don't go to God, then life is just going to keep getting harder and harder. And then one day you'll be at a place in life thinking, why am I not where I think I should be at in life? If you would just go to God for everything, especially your hardships, you could definitely get through them much easier and prosper at it in the end. Because guess what? At the end of this story with Job, spoiler alert, things are going to turn out all right. But it's because he stays faithful throughout these 41 chapters. So I'll see you all later for chapter 2.